everybody, and welcome to the Saturday Surface Interval, a hopefully funny spin on a scuba diving topic with a association with the extreme sports magazine Mpora. So, as with all things, practice makes perfect, and the same goes for scuba diving. If you dive a lot, you'll end up being a better scuba diver. But just like the Red Skull in Marvel movies, the super serum that made Captain America a great person because he was a great person concentrated all of the bad things about the Red Skull and made him even worse. So if you keep practicing bad habits, they're just going to get worse. And if you truly want to become a better scuba diver, you want to be able to eliminate these or start doing these things so that you aren't reinforcing these bad behaviors. The first free one is just to be respectful of where you are and your surroundings. Things are surprisingly delicate underwater, and a clumsy diver can very quickly just bumble in and break a lot of things that can never be unbroken. So there's one extra one for free. Just don't touch anything but water, and even then, don't try and chase things around or try and force any fish or animals to do anything in particular. That's not cool. But let's talk about 5 ways that you can become a better scuba diver. The first thing is your position in the water. This one is actually quite hard to do all by yourself because if you just hang in the water, then you don't actually know if you are perfectly horizontal or not. You just kind of feel, is this what horizontal feels like? And what most people feel is horizontal actually isn't. The best way to learn if you're actually horizontal in the water is to spend some time in the water with a buddy or a camera that's facing you or a large underwater mirror if you have one handy, or maybe you can hold some kind of spirit level somehow to see how level you are, so that you can objectively see your body position in the water and then adjust your weighting accordingly, or just how you naturally hold yourself in the water. You'll see online a lot of pictures of side mount divers laying down on picnic tables, practicing what it actually feels like to be horizontal in the water. I mean, granted, there are a few other reasons why they do this, but it can be a little bit weird when you first search side mount diving and see a whole bunch of people just laying face down on a picnic table. But good trim in the water has a whole bunch of benefits for scuba divers. First of all, it's better for your decompression if all of your body is at the same depth whilst you're decompressing. If your feet are deeper than your head, then they're at a greater pressure and the gases dissolved in your tissues in your feet are going to decompress slower. The shallower you are, the greater that difference. You also meet less water resistance swimming through the water completely flat. So you're actually saving yourself some energy and you're less likely to sawtooth also. If you're always swimming slightly upwards or slightly downwards, then you're changing your depth with every fin kick and then you have to correct it every so often. But if you're nice and trim, then boom, you're all sorted. Your hands are good for 2 things in the water: hand signals and fiddling with stuff. Your hands are not for propulsion because they are just awful compared to your fins. With the right fin kicks, you can swim forwards, backwards, turn on the spot without ever using your hands. So do your best to spend a little bit of time with your hands just tucked away and just practice not using them to turn or maneuver in the water. It can be done. They're also not for touching things. Too many divers are just touching wrecks and reefs to hold themselves steady or move back away from them. If you're that close to a reef that you can't swim back away from it without touching it, then you shouldn't really be getting that close to it in the first place. We also need to be practicing our hand signals. They are our best means of communications in the water, but too many divers speak with their hands like they just have too much toffee in their mouths, with just lazy signals that they kind of throw up for the least amount of time possible. And divers' vocabulary is often quite limited as well. Now, we teach you the basics, the okay, up, down, something's wrong, and then numbers, but that's about where a lot of divers stop learning hand signals. They don't really learn anything else. So take a moment to look around online and learn some extra hand signals, or at least spend a bit more time talking with your hands so it's a bit more natural when you're trying to explain something. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the more practice you get, the better you'll be with talking with your hands so that the other person can kind of understand what you're trying to say. Mpora is an online magazine that is all about inspiring adventure and just getting outside. Whether your adventure takes you sliding around on a snowy mountain or pulling yourself up on a rock climbing wall or a big boulder, riding your bike through wooded trails, surfing barrels down at the beach, and yes, of course, exploring the underwater world, Mpora is a website that has got you covered. Mpora features all sorts of interviews with industry-leading professionals and brands, previews of upcoming events, reviews of the latest gear and equipment, the latest news, and just everything to keep yourself clued up on just exciting extreme sports. Empora's got the lot, so check them out after this. Look after your gear and it will look after you. It's an old adage, but it definitely applies to our scuba equipment. I know a lot of divers' gears is sold and marketed as, oh, it's bulletproof, it's super double tough, but the way that some divers treat their gear is a little bit worrying at times. If a strap breaks on your backpack whilst you're hiking, then yeah, it sucks, you're gonna have a bad day. But if a strap breaks on your BCD during a dive, things can get really complicated really quickly. It's important that you look over all of your gear. You check every stitch as much as you can and every single connection, especially on your regulators. Make sure they are nice and tight because, trust me, they do undo themselves all by themselves. Your gear as well will just last for years and years, but only if you wash it down properly after a dive and store it away and look after it properly. Seeing the way that some divers treat their equipment truly worries me, and equipment usually fails whilst it's being used. It's not going to fail in the storage cupboard. Look after your gear and get it serviced often before something goes wrong. If something goes wrong, it's too late. If skydivers packed their parachutes the way that some divers packed their dive gear, trust me, I would not jump out of a plane with it. No. As much as I would like you to like and subscribe to the Simply Scuba channel, because it doesn't help us out, that's not really what I mean specifically in this case. There are a ton of channels out there that are worth checking out. Spending time looking around other social media channels to see how other scuba divers do things. You will learn about new brands of scuba equipment and new ways of diving. Now, I didn't learn everything I know now directly from my instructor on an official course. That being said, online content does not constitute as official training, and it should only be used as like a guide to kind of point you in a certain direction to take your diving. You'll see someone do something interesting, and that will then lead you to a specific course, a piece of equipment, or a place to go diving that you might not have otherwise considered. There's so much content out there now that by limiting yourself to just one or two influences is just that, limiting. If you only ever go to your dive center to buy equipment and learn courses, then there's going to be a certain level of bias. They'll want to sell you what they have to offer, and in most cases, they will want to give you the choice of what's best for you and only sell you what is best for your actual diving, but there could be something better for you elsewhere that they simply can't offer you. If you've done research around and then you go back to your dive center and that's what your research has pointed you towards, perfect. So it is worth looking around and seeing if there is anything else out there that other divers do or use that might be better for you. It just takes some looking. When you're new to diving, logging your dives can just feel tiresome and boring. It feels like you're just logging the same 3 bits of information over and over again. Your max depth, your bottom time, the water temperature or something. But actually, it's really beneficial for you down the line to be able to refer back to your previously logged dives for information. If you're planning a new dive, you can check the water temperature and check back through your logs to see how thick your wetsuit was the last time you were diving in those kind of water temperatures, and then how you felt previously. You know how much lead you needed, whether that was just too much or just enough. That way, when you're planning to dive in that new place, you already have an idea of what to bring with you, as long as you've logged that information, of course, and you can refer back to it. Now, when I log a dive, I log all of the depth and time and all that kind of stuff, the water temperature, but also what I was wearing and how I felt in the water. I write that down in the notes section. So the next time I know to wear more or wear a little bit less when I'm in those conditions again. It's also a good idea if you can start to work out your SAC rate, your surface air consumption rate, or some kind of air consumption rate for your dive, so that you can see how you improve your breathing with different techniques and just natural progress. Because if you're using a SAC rate, you can see it numerically change, and you can see what works and what doesn't, so that you know that, okay, this technique, this breathing technique, doesn't work for me, but that one actually, it did work on this dive. I'll try practicing that, and then you can stay for longer under the water. Anyway, hopefully some of those might have given you some kind of idea on how to become a better scuba diver. A lot of it is just being relaxed and just planning things. Really, the most important thing to becoming a better scuba diver is, just go scuba diving, because the more time you spend in the water, the better scuba diver you are. Just make sure that you're not reinforcing those bad habits, because that's what we want to get rid of. But some things do require a bit more attention, like spending more time washing your gear down and putting it away properly, and of course just logging your dives. But what was the most helpful tip that you have ever heard from another diver? Let us know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and of course, safe diving.